Welcome to Morrison Madness. I'm LaShelle.
And I'm Don.
So our podcast for this week is we're going to show you how we do our weekly planning. I know there's a lot of people that are like, I've heard of weekly planning, not quite sure how to do it, things that way. There's lots of ways to do it. There isn't one specific way to do weekly planning. We've done it multiple ways ourselves. But we thought we would show you how we're planning on doing it this current week. And again, we are just coming off of spring break. So it's March 20th when we're recording this today. We realize you're seeing this a few weeks later. So this will have already kind of happened this week that we're scheduling, but you'll get to kind of see what our weekly schedule looks like, fun times, as well as how we go about figuring out what we're going to do for the week, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing that we should probably let you know is that we start with, we have a Google Calendar. We each have a Google Calendar ourselves, our personal calendars, but then we also have several calendars beyond that as well. We have a calendar for our business. Our business calendar, we have a public calendar and a private calendar, which the public calendar is our public shows. So people that are following our calendar, our Google Calendar, you can see on our website or anything along those lines, they can see any of our public shows. Where the private calendar has our individual meetings with clients or details about a private event. So like a wedding isn't a public event, so we'll put in our public calendar that we're doing a wedding a specific day, but then on the private calendar, we'll actually have the details of the location and who the wedding's names and stuff like that in that calendar. So we can see that detailed information from our calendars when we're looking at them on our phones, because our phones are pretty much stuck to us nonstop.
Well, and part of the reason that we use a calendar and block stuff off the way that we do is if we have things where we can't be interrupted, like when we have a doctor's appointment, it goes into the calendar in a specific way.
Right.
So then a client can't go into our online program and schedule an hour
Right.
meeting with us over the phone through TidyCal or whatever.
Right.
Because it's blocked off because
Yes.
one of us is at a doctor's appointment.
Yes, so TidyCal reads both our public and private work calendar as well as our personal calendars, because we do have a lot of personal events as well, as you will see as we're coming up here. I'm not sure if you're seeing the calendar yet. At some point, our calendar will pop up onto your screen and you'll be able to see our actual calendar. The second thing that we actually use on a regular basis is Todoist, which is a to-do list, to-do app that also works on your phone. We both have Androids, but from my understanding, both Google Calendar and Todoist works very well on Apple as well. So if you're an Apple person, you can use, or a Mac person, you can also use these programs also. But the reason that we like Google Calendar and Todoist, we use the free versions. We don't pay for either of these services, although there are paid versions that you can do, especially with Todoist. I know there's paid versions that you can do. But you can see that we'll pull this stuff up. You'll be able to see as we go back and forth. So we already have things in our calendar for the week. So part of our weekly calendars planning session is looking at what's already in the calendar and deciding, are those things actually happening this week or are they going away? Do they need to happen this week? Sometimes, like, I have a recurring event and then I know that this week it's gotten canceled and I just haven't pulled it out of the calendar yet. So making sure that our calendar is pulled up now if it hasn't been pulled up already. So if you are looking on or watching on YouTube, you'll be able to actually see our calendar. If you're following us on the podcast, we'll do our best to try and describe things on our calendar as we're going. So you'll see here for today, things that have already happened today: pay Discover card statement this morning, which I have already done. You'll notice that that's kind of grayed out, but lower here is register Chewy and register the microchip for Mala. That's stuff that I need to do in my office kind of idea, but those are to-do items. And so the color for that is kind of a grayish color on my computer, where right now we're sitting in podcast recording, which is our Morrison Madness calendar. And so the Morrison Madness calendar, we block off that we're recording during this time. So then people can, so then we know that we're busy during this time. So again, at the top, the Pay the Discover card, organizing our week, which currently we're doing while we're doing podcasts today, and then refill the pens and sheets in our Star Entertainment bag. And so those are actually, those first three items that have already happened today are to-do items. Those aren't meetings or appointments, but rather to-do items, which will, again, lower, would have been the same color, but they're grayed out because they've already happened. And then later tonight if my computer will actually scroll for me, you'll see that we have travel from 5 to 6, and that color is kind of a pinkish color. That's our Star Entertainment private calendar. So again, our public calendar doesn't show that we're traveling to that event, but we needed to block off that time so TidyCal, when people are trying to make appointments with us, doesn't automatically book us for a meeting when we need to be traveling to an event that's coming up. So we have to book in our travel time on our private calendar, so we know that that's the time that we're able to get to our event. And then we have Name That Tune tonight at a Brick and Iron from 6 to 8. So that is our schedule for today. Is there stuff that you have on your schedule that you need to, for today, that you wanted to mention at all? Any to-do items or anything that way? No? So our to-do items in our to-do list, the things that are on my to-do list show up in my calendar, and we're actually looking technically at my calendar, what I normally see. The stuff that's to-do items, Don actually has different to-do items that are in his calendar that may or may not show up in mine. It depends on if we're sharing the to-do item or if it's an individual to-do item. So I believe like the register, Chewy, and Mala that's happening from 3 to 5 is only in my calendar. I don't think you see that in your calendar.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Oh, then it's a shared event. Okay. So in any case, just to kind of give you a brief overview of kind of what our calendar is then, and we'll talk about more too as you see different colors going through, what the different colors mean and why there's a bunch of different colors, but you can also see kind of off on the side, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a bunch of different calendars over here. So, all right. So usually what we start off with is our things that for sure are going to happen this week. So one of the things that I will mention as we're looking on Monday night, we have a travel from 5 to 6, but the Name That Tune doesn't start until 7, and it's empty in between. The reason that there's an empty hour in there is actually we usually have a meeting with a person that helps us with our social media stuff, and we meet with them at Herb and Lou's on Mondays because they are a regular Name That Tune player as well. So they are actually going to be out of town this week, so I deleted that we're meeting with them this week, but I never changed our travel time. So then I mentioned to you about, do we want to just plan on going to Herb and Lou's an hour later because we don't need an extra hour for that meeting. So should we move the travel time later tomorrow?
Yes.
All right. So then I move that travel time down and I say, yes, only this event from 6 to 7. So now this week we don't travel until 6 to 7. So then that opens up some time for people to potentially, actually I think Mondays are blocked off now on TidyCal. But in any case, so we kind of talk about that. We also look through, we have Name That Tune every night, Sunday through Thursday. On Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, we have an individual that does Name That Tune for us. And so this week, he is not doing that for us. This is our week to run it. So we make sure that, yes, we realize we have Name That Tune all 5 nights this week. Yes. All right. And then I kind of start with my schedule usually. And I say, okay, on Tuesday, I have my morning meetings. If you're looking, you'll see there's a morning meeting that I haven't accepted, but then there's a meeting that says the same thing for a shorter period of time. So the bigger meeting that I have not accepted starts at 8:30 and goes to 11. I actually join the meeting after it has already started for my work, and I join at 9 and go until 11. So they invite me to the full one, but I create my own to know that that's when I'm going. And then I tell them that, yes, I'm attending, but I know myself that I am not actually attending the entire meeting. I'm only attending starting at 9 because I have that one. That's a little weird thing for me because of my job. And then I have a second meeting for my job right after that at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays. And then I'm going to go to campus as soon as I can after my meetings. Usually by noon, I like to try and be on campus. Kind of depends on if I need to eat something or if there's organizational things that I need to get done for my job right away. Then sometimes I end up having to go to campus a little bit later, but I try to get to campus right by noon. And then I have a meeting on campus at 1:30, and I plan on being home by at least 4 p.m. on Tuesday. So my Tuesdays are pretty full. Wednesday, I have an optional meeting in the morning where I meet with a classmate and we work and write stuff. And then in the afternoon, we work and write stuff. I have not had a chance to check in with her to see if we're actually meeting this week. And so I may end up being able to cancel those. And then I don't have any meetings on Thursday, but then I have a meeting on Friday for my program, for my dissertation program that I would attend. I can either attend in person on campus or I can attend via Zoom. And then one other thing that I do have that I've been doing for a little while here is I'm also a sign language interpreter, and I have a continuing ed course on Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11:45 to 1:15. I have a course that I attend via Zoom, and so I can kind of do that from wherever then, since it's on Zoom, but that's on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So those are in my calendars, and those are kind of non-negotiables. I can't change that around. All the other stuff that you see here on this calendar that's in this gray are to-do items that I need to be able to rearrange and be flexible with and decide when that's going to happen. And then from there, we kind of go into Don's non-negotiable meetings, the stuff that he has for meetings for the week.
So the only thing that I have that's not negotiable are doctor's appointments.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, my stuff that is set up in the calendar, I have it set up to work 3 to 4 hours in the morning on Star Entertainment stuff, whether that's name that tune or organizing the equipment or checking the equipment or
right,
whatever, ordering new equipment, finding new equipment, downloading
right.
songs.
And then sometimes we work on those things together.
Right. And then, but that's pretty much my every morning.
Right.
And then my afternoons are working on the stuff for the gaming store.
Right.
And then throughout the day, I will have spread out specific things like if there's some specific errand that I need to go run, or, doing laundry, or
right,
whatever the case might be.
Right. So you also have an assistant that comes and helps you do some things for all of the different stuff that we have going on.
Right.
Which is this Beth work schedule that's here.
And the reason it's in there like that is that's what she used to be scheduled. Her schedule is changing.
Right. And she's in the process of changing it, but do you know what she's planning on working this week?
I do not.
Okay. So I know that she said she is for sure planning on coming on Monday, but then you had mentioned one of the things that we also pay attention to is weather, because a lot of the projects and stuff that you are working on that you want to try and get done during the week, because we don't work a regular 8 to 5, a lot of times you're working on stuff just when it's nice out, because if it's going to be rainy over the weekend, we don't leave our weekend projects to the weekend. We try and do them during the week instead, and then work on our actual work that has to be done in an office on the weekend when it's rainy, if we have an open weekend. So
I know that she's not working on Friday.
Okay. So then we would come in here and we would actually delete this event on Friday then, so then that way that goes away. And then I don't know if she's working on Wednesday or not, but I know Tuesday and Wednesday it was supposed to be rainier, but Monday was supposed to be really nice.
Right.
So that you were planning on having her come on Monday. So then from there, we kind of talk about what are some of the to-do items, and I'll pull up our to-doist here. So this is kind of our to-do items here. I've already paid the Discover card for our company this morning, so I can mark that off as being done, and that goes away. We're currently organizing our calendar. You can see I've got some subtasks. So schedule the to-do items, schedule any needed events, go over the scheduled events, and meal plan is part of what we do. So we've kind of gone over we've gone over the scheduled events. Are there any events that we need to schedule that you can think of this week? Is there anything coming up that you for sure
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. One of the things I didn't mention up here is going to mom and dad's. I had planned on going to visit my parents last week during spring break, and I was working on my dissertation and getting stuck on stuff, and so I didn't want to go until that part was done, so I could really focus on just hanging out with my parents. So I may possibly try and get to go to my parents this week, but it's flexible. I may not go to my parents this week. It kind of just depends on how the next couple days go. So it's in there as a reminder to me that that's a goal of mine, if I can get everything done that needs to be done. And then from there, we would kind of check back in and be like, okay, so then Don's going to have to run the Name That tunes by himself, or have somebody help him on Wednesday and Thursday night if that's the case. So that's one of the things that we have in there. So then our to-do items, we don't have any schedule items that we need to do. So the next thing that we would try and do is schedule our to-do items. So looking at our to-do items, we have contract this person tomorrow morning about trying to find somebody to work for Star Entertainment. So there's an individual at the university that we want to contact. We've written up our job description, so we want to make sure that we go over that job description and actually send that in tomorrow morning. So I have that as a to-do item tomorrow morning, because we're coming back from spring break, and she can actually advertise it to students that would potentially be interested in interning for Star Entertainment. So that's one of our to-do items tomorrow. Are there other to-do items that you know of that need to be done tomorrow or this week for sure?
No, not that need to be done this week.
Okay. So you'll notice on Thursday I have a lot of to-do items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to-do items to do on Thursday. I recommend trying not to have more than 3 to-do items unless they're really short, easy to-do items. If you know it's only going to take you 10 minutes to a half an hour to do a to-do item and you've got 5 of those, then yeah, schedule 5 of them for that day. But most to-do items, and this is one of those tricks, you want to think of what a to-do item is and you want to double the time you think it's going to take for you to do it. If you double the time you think it's going to take for you to do it, then you built in a buffer. And so that's one of the things that I always recommend is anytime you have a to-do item like contact Tracy, this literally should just be writing up an email and sending it. It shouldn't take more than 30 minutes to write up an email and send it. However, I know we may still want to double check the job description that we've written. I'm going to need to write it. I'm going to need Don to review it and make sure that it sounds okay before I send it. So in that process, if he's not available right at that moment, it might take longer than just 15 minutes to a half an hour to write up an email and send it because I want to work with a team member on this. So I'm going to schedule it for an hour. So that's one of my tricks when I'm doing my task list stuff and my to-do items. I'm going to leave all these things right now on Thursday just because that's really going to be dependent upon if I go to my mom and my dad's kind of idea. If I don't go, I will end up doing some of these things on Thursday. But if I do go, then this stuff will probably get moved out another week instead.
Well, and the reason that we have so many things on Thursday is that's kind of our day of the week where we work together.
Right.
The other days we tend to not work on stuff together unless it's really important.
Right.
Thursday is the day that we set aside where this is where all the things that we know we should be doing together kind of get dumped.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. The 2 to-do items, if you're curious, that I have on Tuesday, they actually have to deal with my dissertation work and things that I need to get done while on campus. That's why it's scheduled here to be on campus. Neither one of them should take an hour. Both of them should actually be able to be done within less than a half an hour together. Again, I have my to-do items to automatically schedule within my calendar. And this is one of the nice things that Todoist does is that it will schedule your items into your calendar and you can see it in your Google Calendar so you can actually change the time length. So I have them naturally scheduled for an hour. So then that gives me a buffer between, or I can kind of overlap if I know that it should only take a half an hour at most for any to-do item, I can overlap them. So those are the things that I have kind of in the to-do items. It looks like Don, you're planning on, you have in the morning to take your shot for your RA a couple times a week. You'll also notice that our day doesn't really start until about 9 a.m. That being because we actually work until at least 9, if not 10 at night. And then we come home and we still have puppies that are crazy because they've been kenneled for a few hours and they need some love. So a lot of times we're not getting to bed until close to midnight or 1 a.m. So our day doesn't really start until 9. The puppies and us are usually up sometime around 7:30, 8 o'clock. That's our pretty much our schedule, so we get a good solid night's sleep. But it looks like you do have a doctor's appointment on Friday. But other than that, you don't have other things. So then a lot of times what you would do, because Monday you are planning on working out in the yard. Yeah. So then one of the things that would naturally happen is, I'm just going to give an example here. We would actually put this on Don's schedule and we would say work on yard. And so, like, we still have our Christmas decorations up outside. So that might be one of the things that Don's going to take care of. So he would schedule that from 10 until, 4 p.m.? And then he would save that. So then that shows up in his calendar. That's the kind of stuff that we would do. And I realized that we're kind of scheduling random things because, again, our meetings, we don't have a whole lot of meetings this week for Star Entertainment and things that way. But I don't tend to put into my calendar the dissertation work because I just plan on any moment that I have that I'm not working on something else is working on my dissertation. That's one of the things that has to happen. And so that's something that I just automatically plan on doing whenever there's open time. Sometimes I will, if I feel like I'm getting pulled away too easily, I will put in my calendar dissertation work from this time to this time. So then that way Don knows that I'm really trying to be in the zone and not being bothered right now. And so then he'll know not to talk to me for the next 2 hours because I'm really in a dissertation mode. And then what that would look like is similar to my Wednesday, where I have a couple hours of dissertation, and then in the afternoon, a couple hours of dissertation. But that's the way we do our weekly scheduling. Questions, comments, things that you think I missed that we should tell the lovely folks that are listening or watching?
Well, I think a lot of time there's a lot more back and forth. There's not right now because we're coming off of a break.
Right.
And so you're having to get back into your routine.
Right.
My routine pretty much is staying the same.
Right.
And then, again, part of it will depend on whether you go to your parents or you don't go to your parents.
Right. So this week is a weird week because of not knowing whether or not I'll be going to my parents this week. If I don't, then this stuff here, again, training done on Boothbook. So that's a program that we use for Star Entertainment, and there's components that I know how to do, but Don hasn't had a chance to work with yet. So that would be something that we would plan on working on Thursday. That's something we would schedule to do,
Right.
especially if it's going to be rainy, which according to this little weather app that I have imported into my Google Calendar, says that it's supposed to be a high of 38 and rainy all day. So it would be a good day for us to do inside kind of book work kind of stuff, computer work stuff. So that would be something that we would do on that day. Let's see. What are some of these others? The copy, this actually would move to Friday, and I would do that while I'm listening to this course, and actually might move it to Wednesday to while I'm listening to the course if I do not go to mom and dad's, because while I'm listening in the course, I just have to be sitting at this computer. This is just literally copying photos from a device onto another device for my mom to give back to my mom. So then these can come apart, so you can kind of see things start planning out a little bit more. And then I would say another train done on, and I think this is how to do the descriptions for the podcast, I would move that to say Saturday, because I wouldn't want to do both of those in the same day. That's a lot for us to go over.
And actually,
together.
that's a done item. That should get checked off.
Oh, that's been checked off?
It should be checked off.
Okay. So if it's supposed to be checked off, here, let's move it to today.
What
so
actually,
you can kind of see how this works.
Right, and we need to put a new thing in there that says, remind Don
Oh,
to put in the description for the podcast.
okay. So, and let's talk about that. So that's a good thing. And again, this is stuff that might happen, like the remindings or whatever might happen even as we're going in the car. This is part of the reason that I really like Todoist, because I can enter stuff right from my phone. So if we're heading together somewhere and I'm in the passenger seat and he says, oh, put this in my to-do list, I can actually stick it right into his to-do list. I don't have to log in as him or anything because we have shared lists. So if I refresh that, make sure that that pops up, and then I'm going to go to our to-do list. I'm going to close this yet here, and I'm going to refresh. Oh, it's already there. So you can actually see, as we go down here, trained on how to upload and enter descriptions for podcasts. And I thought we had done that. I just evidently didn't check it off when we did it, and I just kept moving it forward because I feel like we just did this last week. So we can check that off as being done. So now that item has been done. So then we're going to add a new item into Todoist. So this is update descriptions on podcasts. And instead of my inbox, it needs to go to our Morrison Madness. And that is a done item. And when would you like this to happen? Do you want to do it on Sundays? Fridays?
Yes, on Sundays.
On Sundays. So it'll be on Sundays at what time?
Like noon.
So you can put in noon, and it's not letting me do noon. So 12 p.m., add a 12 p.m. time, and then we're going to say it's weekly. Oops, I think I have to do March 20th weekly. Well, now that's not wanting to do it. Maybe I have to put it here. There we go. So Sunday, March 20th for forever at noon is when that's going to happen. and then we add that task. I'm actually going to say that it's unassigned just so it pops up so you can see it, because if I say that it's Dawn's, it actually disappears in my to-do list. So if we update the descriptions on the podcast, here you can see that that's already here. And then if we go back to our calendar, it takes a moment to get back in the calendar. I might have to refresh. It's going to take a moment here.
No, it won't be on that week, honey. It will be on the next one.
Oh, did it start next week?
That's what I thought you said.
Oh, I thought I put it for today. Yeah, it's not there yet. In any case, it will pop up here at noon is when that will happen. Once it has a chance. Todoist takes a few minutes to get back. Usually if you're just moving things, but to get something new, there it is. Update description in the podcast. So then it's right there in our calendar. So then Don sees it in his calendar that that's something that he needs to do at that time. So that's kind of how we run our world and stay on track.
So obviously if we have bigger things that are coming up and we know about them ahead of time, sometimes we'll plan 2-3 weeks out so that we're giving each other enough notice of, hey, this big thing is coming up. But we try not to plan too far out with little things.
Right.
Because little things can tend to get bumped.
Yes.
And then you end up with
12 things on
3 months down the road, you end up with 100 things to do.
Yes, and that happens consistently with us. And that's part of why we had like 7 things here on that Thursday, was that a lot of this stuff is things that we've talked about that, hey, we really should do this, but it's not urgent. It's not something that has to happen this week. So if we have time, we're going to do it. And so we'll schedule it, and it'll happen during a day where we think we're going to have some time. Something else comes up, we don't actually get to it. And so then that's one of those that then it gets bumped to the next week. And I always bump everything to the next Thursday. So when I am doing my weekly planning at the end of the week, when I'm doing my personal stuff, seeing kind of what I have coming up for the next week and the next month, then that's when I look at what my to-do items have been and whether or not they were done, and then I just move them forward. And I did that a little haphazardly because I was doing that earlier today, instead of when we would normally do that to prepare for this podcast, which is why I ended up moving this training done, how to upload.
Right.
Instead of saying that it was done, I just bumped it forward. So, all right. That is how we do our weekly planning. We hope you enjoyed or found some helpfulness in this, helpful tips, tricks. I would say the biggest one, again, everything that you're scheduling for a to-do item, double the time you think it's going to take for you to do it. Until you get really used to knowing how long something is going to take, everything, just double the amount of time you think it's going to take to do it, because that provides you with a buffer. And then schedule things together in chunks. If you have 3 different things that need to be happening on a computer, and then 2 different things that need to happen when you're running around town, don't schedule a running around or computer item, run around town, a computer item, and run around town, and then a computer item. You'll drive yourself crazy, literally. So schedule your running around town items together, and then schedule your 3 computer items together, because that will save you time from transitioning from different things. That's a new thing that a lot of people are calling block scheduling.
When you first start doing this, it's going to take, especially if you're doing it as a couple, it's going to take 2 or 3 hours, especially if you throw in the meal planning. But as time goes on, it takes less and less time, because you get used to each other's schedules and the kind of stuff that's going on, and you're letting yourselves know throughout the week things that are coming up, because you're automatically going in and putting them in Todoist.
Absolutely, yes. So for the
or whatever program that you use.
Right. So for the first, I would say, what would you say, 6 to 8 weeks? Plan on 2 to 3 hours a week when there's 2 of you to sit down and actually talk through your schedules. And you may only be scheduling your evenings or something that way, but talk through that. It might take 2 or 3 hours to schedule that kind of stuff, and that's okay. It's not something that's going to happen very quickly up front, but doing this on a consistent basis, then there's weeks when we don't even actually meet. We're just like, everything's in the calendar, and then we just keep going.
Right.
Because we know what each other's shortcuts or how we put things in, like work on yard. I know that means Don's going to be around the house and he's going to be working on the yard. He's probably putting away the Christmas decorations. I can kind of get an idea for that. So then we don't have to necessarily check in to say, hey, what are you doing this week? He knows what my meetings mean and why, whether I'm going to be at home or on campus or what have you. So it goes a little faster and a little smoother. So
if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot us a message
absolutely
on social media, or email us at
Morrison Madness Moments
on Gmail.
At gmail.com.
Right.
Yep.
Until our next episode, take care.
See you later.